Once upon a time, there was a girl named Cinderella. She was a kind, honest, and sweet person. She was beautiful on the inside, which made her beautiful on the outside, too. Cinderella's mother died when she was a very small girl, and so her father had remarried. Her stepmother was a horrible, mean person. Cinderella and her father had to go and live with her in her old, dusty house. The stepmother's two daughters were just as mean and horrible as their mother, which had made them ugly on the outside. They were jealous of Cinderella's beauty, so they made her wash all their clothes, cook all their food, and clean up all their mess. Cinderella was very unhappy, but she did all her chores without complaining. She dreamed of the day she would be able to leave the awful house and get away from her stepmother and stepsisters. One day a messenger from the castle arrived to the town in a fine black and gold carriage. He brought a letter from the king and queen. "To all eligible ladies of the kingdom, it is the pleasure of the king and queen to invite you to a ball tomorrow night. The prince is ready to be married and is hoping to meet his princess." "Of course Cinderella won't be going," spat the stepmother. "The prince will be looking for a beautiful girl, like my daughters." The stepsisters laughed and agreed. The next evening, Cinderella heard her stepsisters squealing and shrieking as they left to go to the ball without her. "I'm so tired of waiting for the day I can leave this place," sobbed Cinderella. In a flash of blinding white light, a lady with violet hair appeared. Cinderella screamed, "Hush! Do not be frightened, Cinderella. I'm your fairy godmother. You are the kindest, sweetest girl in the entire kingdom, and if the prince were to meet you, you would fall in love instantly. You shall go to the ball. Nobody deserves it as much as you." Bang! A pumpkin in the garden outside grew and grew, changing in color and shape until an exquisite pink carriage was formed. Whoosh! Cinderella's clothes grew longer and fuller until she stood in a fancy white ball gown. Glass as smooth as liquid ran around her bare toes until they were perfectly encased in slippers of pure, clear crystal. Crack! A mouse that had been running through the garden began to swell until a fully grown footman stood beside the carriage. With a warning from the fairy godmother that the magic would wear off by midnight, Cinderella climbed into her carriage and escaped towards the palace. When Cinderella arrived at the ball, the whole room parted to let the mysterious girl pass through, astounded by her fabulous carriage and crystal shoes. The prince saw Cinderella's dazzling dress and silky red hair from his outlook at the top of the ballroom stairs. "That is the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. Footman, please ask her if she would give me the pleasure of a dance." In a private ballroom with golden floors and glowing chandeliers, the prince and Cinderella danced and talked for hours. Although she could not give away her true identity, she dazzled the prince with her charm, cleverness, and lovely face. All too soon, the clocks were striking midnight, and Cinderella gasped when she heard them. She knew the magic would wear off. She ran from the prince's arms, out of the ballroom, and down the red velvet carpet, where one of her delicate glass slippers popped right off. With no time to stop and pick it up, she jumped into her carriage just as the horse began to pull it away. She wept, as she knew she would never be allowed to see the prince again. The prince was upset too, for he could not bear to lose the beautiful girl who knew he wanted to be his wife. Scooping the slipper from the door where it fell, he went out the very next day to find the foot that fit it. After seeing many ladies whose feet were too big or too small, he arrived at Cinderella's stepmother's house. Her sisters went first, trying to stuff their fat toes into the shoes and wailing when they couldn't fit them in. Finally, it was Cinderella's turn. The prince knew right away when he saw her beautiful face turned towards him that she was the one who had danced so gracefully beside him. It was no surprise that her foot slipped daintily into the shoe, a perfect fit. "Cinderella, come away from this place and rule the kingdom as my queen," said the prince. Her many years of toil had come to an end. Cinderella had the happy ending she deserved for being such a sweet and pleasant person. Cinderella and the prince climbed onto the prince's horse and rode back to the palace, vowing to rule the kingdom together as the fairest, most just leaders in all the land.